Hello, welcome to the March 21st edition of This Week in South Carolina in Session. I'm Gavin Jackson for ETV outside the State House here in Columbia. Well, the Senate is still in session despite it being after hours, a long Wednesday for these lawmakers, as they continue to debate a contentious liquor store bill. This would figure out how many liquor stores an entity could own in South Carolina. Currently, the number 3 past number of liquor stores that an entity could own was found unconstitutional. We have some more details for you on that in a little bit later, but I just want to tell you that that's why we're here. That's why it's a little late today, and that debate is still ongoing, but there could be a resolution after this broadcast, just so you know. Also, over in the House today, we saw some activity on the House floor. We saw about 9 bills get scratched off the House calendar, but 12 added because there's a lot of activity going through, especially as we get closer to that crossover date on April 10th. But none of the bills that crossed off the list were solar bills, unfortunately. Even though we've been told this week to expect some of that debate, we did not see it go on today. We might get some tomorrow, but we're still waiting to see what happens there. Back over in the Senate, we did get to see in the Senate Medical Affairs Committee, a subcommittee rather, we saw the medicinal marijuana bill by Senator Tom Davis, S212, move forward. This bill has been somewhat dormant for the past year, but we did see it move because of an amendment that Davis got passed that would help address some concerns from law enforcement. We have some more details for you on that. And also in the House, we saw lawmakers in an education committee take up several provisions, several measures, 6 bills actually, dealing with school safety. They didn't do any activity on those today. They just kind of heard testimony from folks like the Superintendent of Education, State Law Enforcement Division Chief Mark Keel, and others talk about school safety needs. But really the big action today was a little bit unfortunate action we saw in the House when we saw lawmaker Jimmy Bales, Representative Jimmy Bales, a Democrat from Eastover, collapse on the House floor in his desk. He just was in an accident recently, but we had some video of that for you right now, and we're going to show you that video of what happened today in the House dealing with Representative Jimmy Bales. You can see Representative Pat Hennigan getting Speaker Jay Lucas's attention as the situation unfolds.
Mr. Fry, I need you to suspend your comments a minute. I need the House stand at ease.
Lucas heads down from the dais and calls for medical assistance. Clarendon Democratic Representative Robert Ridgway and the doctor of the day responded before the cameras in the chamber were cut off. Emergency personnel were called to the scene to help Bales, an 82-year-old Democrat from Eastover who survived a car accident Tuesday after his car flipped 3 times as he tried to avoid hitting a dog. Bales was conscious when he was wheeled out on a stretcher from the House of Representatives.
He came in with you and I as he went out with EMS. He was awake and alert. And as the House applauded his absence, he, as you know and as you noted yesterday, was involved in a car accident. He told me this morning that he flipped his car 3 times, but he came back to the State House last night to check in. He wants the people in his district to know that he does not want to miss a day. He loves being up and he loves doing the work of the people of South Carolina. And as such, I know that it pained him more than anything else to have to leave here while we were continuing to work, even though he left on a stretcher.
We did see Beaufort Republican Senator Tom Davis's bill dealing with medicinal marijuana, S212, actually moving forward to the full Medical Affairs Committee. Now, this bill, like I said, has been somewhat dormant for the past year, and that's because Davis said he's been working with law enforcement, specifically SLED Chief Mark Keel and others, on trying to appease some of their concerns when it comes to producing marijuana and distributing it in the state for medicinal purposes, not recreational purposes, not anything other than a really tailored reason as to why someone would need a prescription for medical marijuana in the state. And we saw that amendment introduced today. We have some more details from him on this, just about how specific he got with this amendment, and that there are still some concerns with this amendment because we did see this bill get passed out on a 3-2 vote. So kind of surprising there to see such a close vote, but something that Davis expected to see happen. But at the same time, we also anticipate some more activity happening in that Medical Affairs Committee should this bill be heard before them soon. So let's go into that subcommittee action right now.
I would reluctantly agree to, and I've shared this with Chief Keel, to something along a state dispensary model where the state, involving SLED and DHEC and whatever other state agencies we felt are appropriate, are the ones in charge of growing, processing, and dispensing. And, I don't think that's ideal, but I'm not in this primarily to provide a market for entrepreneurs to come in and make money. I'm in this, at the end of the day, just to get medicine in the hands of people who, quite frankly, desperately need it. I mean, we've heard testimony, and it's true, of people who leave the state and go to another state because they can't get the medicine they need. And, we talk, about the opioid crisis, and we talk about how doctors overprescribe opioids and the problem, and we scratch our heads and we, gnash our teeth, and how do we address this problem? And yet, study after study shows that in many instances, conditions for which doctors prescribe opioids can be addressed with cannabis.
Appreciate and acknowledge that not until law enforcement and other interested parties come to the table and we form a consensus will we be successful. But my encouragement to everyone is eyes wide open, debate hurtling down the tracks in this country, sledgehammer hitting that rock incessantly. Let's get our chisels out and score this rock and have it break where we need it to break. And for our people here in South Carolina, I believe that point of break and acceptance and comfort and accommodation is going to be along the most conservative of lines, the most conservative in the country.
Until more of the law enforcement and medical community can support this bill, I will not be able to support it. I think there are valid reasons why law enforcement and some medical professionals don't like this bill. And I think we need to address those and try to find some kind of way that we can get around that. But
And we did see a House Education Subcommittee today receive testimony for several hours from the State Superintendent of Education, Molly Spearman, State Law Enforcement Division Chief Mark Keel, and others with the SRO community, Sheriff's Association, and others with the education field, just dealing with these 6 bills before the Senate, this House rather, subcommittee. And some of these bills would require SROs to be in all schools, would require metal detectors to be posted within schools, would even possibly arm an employee at a school that could be serving as a protection officer. So several different bills being floated around right now. And again, these are all House bills, and as we get closer to April 10th, which is crossover, these bills, their future becomes a little bit more mired in doubt, because if a bill is not crossed over to the other chamber by April 10th, then its likelihood of succeeding is greatly diminished at that point. And it should be noted that the House is off for spring break next week, so that means that they come back and then they come back the first week of April, and then all of a sudden they have 3 working days before crossover on April 10th. So these bills really do need to start moving if they are going to see any activity. But the big takeaway from this subcommittee meeting was that despite the fact that there are several ideas out there, they all cost substantial amounts of money. And right now there is no additional money in the budget passed by the House to increase school safety. Now we could see maybe some activity over in the Senate since they are dealing with the bill right now. But right now it's a funding issue, and we heard from lawmakers talking about that today. We don't have any video for you, but that was kind of the gist of what happened today, since there was no activity on those bills, just testimony at this point. Meanwhile, in the Senate, lawmakers continue to debate the liquor store bill. The current status quo for liquor stores is that they can only own 3 locations in South Carolina, but that was overturned last year by the state Supreme Court that ruled the 3-store rule unconstitutional, saying it was economic protectionism. Lawmakers last year, however, passed a law that essentially created a moratorium status quo for the 3-store rule while they studied the issue. That resolution expires on April 5th.
All that is a restraint on commerce, a restraint on the marketplace. And if one thing that this Senate has been pretty consistent on over the years is talking about the free market and how the wonders of the free market will cure many things. Competition, consumer choice is good for us in this state. So limiting one family, because it really is a family. It's not just a person, it's per family. Limiting a family to 3 licenses is a restraint on commerce.
That's where we have it now from the House, correct?
We do, but you and this may not be clear to maybe some of the non-lawyers, the dissenting opinion didn't win. It was 4-1, and so the House said, well, we'll take what the one said and rewrite the bill with some expectation that what's already the law of the land in South Carolina is going to be changed. And that just doesn't happen in real life. You can't, once the court, which has under the Constitution the right to interpret the laws in light of the Constitution, has made a constitutional determination that there is no police power argument that would justify, that's what they said, there is no police power argument that would justify a 3-store limit. It's purely an economic protectionism argument. That's not police power. That's not allowed. That is ruled on. That's done. That's precedent. Strategy is to get the people outside of this chamber to come to an agreement, and when they let us know what it is, we'll pull all those down and put that one up.
I think that is a fantastic idea. And did you know that these folks out here are telling me, the ones that I'm talking to, the ones that I can't understand why in the world they wouldn't have wanted a subcommittee, since the subcommittee appeared to have been maybe kind of leaning in their favor. I don't know why in the world that they wouldn't want to sit down and talk.
And unfortunately, we don't have the outcome for you about what happened with that liquor store bill. However, it still needs a third reading, which would obviously happen possibly tomorrow. If they get a second reading tonight, they could possibly move all their amendments over to third reading, which is a common procedure in some of these more contentious bills. But more to look forward to tomorrow in the Senate. We'll have a full recap of what happened with the liquor store bill for you. Also, we're going to be looking forward to an LCI committee in the Senate that's going to be taking up the plastic bag ban bill, which would prohibit municipalities and counties across the state from passing plastic bag bans. We've seen that done in several municipalities so far, and this bill has already passed the House, so we expect it to start moving in the Senate if it does get out of committee tomorrow. Also, we don't know if the House is going to start talking about solar bills tomorrow, but it is the last working day of the week, so anything's possible over there. They do have a pretty big calendar to start working through, especially since they're off next week. So stick with SCE throughout the 2018 legislative session as we continue to bring you live updates every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. on SCETV's Facebook page, our YouTube page, and my Twitter account at Gavin Jackson. All to tell you what's going on up here, because we know it's moving fast, really, and we want to keep you informed about what happens up here every day they're in session, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And those are the same days you can find out on SCETV.org what is happening up here with the State House Daybook, where we list our agendas and meeting schedules and everything else that goes on up here in one easy-to-find location at SCETV.org. I'm Gavin Jackson for SCETV outside the State House.